Welcome to Thursday's Step 10 and 11 meeting of Cocaine Anonymous. Step 10, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. It is now with great pleasure that we introduce our first speaker, Lynne, who's going to share for around about 20 minutes on Step 10. Over to you, Lynne. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie, so much. Thank you for your service. Thank you, Janie, for your service. Good morning, afternoon, evening, everybody. My name is Lynne. I'm a recovered addict and alcoholic. When I say recovered, I don't mean that I am cured. I have a disease of alcoholism and addiction. What I mean when I say recovered is I'm in remission. I no longer suffer from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. That doesn't mean that if I pick up the first one, I won't be right back to where I was 6 years ago. My sobriety date is July 15, 2019. I have 2,235 days of one day at a time in a row. And I'm very grateful to be here today. If I had stuck around from the first time I got here, which was April 15th of 1999, I'd have about 26 years today. But that is not my experience. What happened for me was I got to step 9 the first time and my life got amazing. And so I just never did 10, 11, and 12. But why do 10, 11, and 12? My life's good now. But what ended up happening was because I never learned how to do step 10, I was not practicing the principles of this program on a daily basis. I was not practicing the work that you had taught me from steps 4 through 9. And that's what the magic of step 10 is. It's doing steps 4 through 9 on a daily basis whenever anything arises. I'm going to screen share and do this like a book study. So I hope you guys aren't sick of book studies because that's what you're going to get today. So yeah, let me open this up and I apologize. My book is a hot mess. Colors don't mean a thing. I just have things highlighted, colored, underlined. It doesn't matter. They don't mean anything specific. So step 10, this is on page 84 of the big book, suggests, which is a strong suggestion. If you want to keep staying the way you are after step 9, we suggest that you do step 10. We suggest that you continue. There's a lot of continues in this paragraph. And because I never read this with my sponsor, I didn't understand this is a continuous process. This is something I'm going to keep doing the rest of my life. And so I'm going to continue to take personal inventory, which was what I learned how to do in step 4. And it says to continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. This is a daily process. This is something I'm going to have to do daily. And setting right any new mistakes is practicing step 9. It says we vigorously commenced. Bill gives a lot of very specific instructions in this book, like time frames and the way you should do things. And vigorously is a direction. He says you want to commence this work vigorously with enthusiasm, right? We want to continue this work. We vigorously commence this way of living. It's a way of living. It's not just a step. It's a way of living. As we cleaned up the past, we've entered. So this is just a beginning, guys. We are not going to automatically be doing this instinctively every day. We've just entered into the world of the spirit. The book talks about spiritual progress, not spiritual perfection. Doesn't say progress, not perfection, FYI. It says spiritual progress, not spiritual perfection. We've just entered the world of the spirit in step 10. Our next function, so Bill's telling us what we're supposed to do next. This is our job from step 10 on, is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. And this is not an overnight matter. He's telling us again, time frames here. This is not going to happen overnight. It should continue for our lifetime. God, I ripped myself off by not getting to this part of the book, you guys. I just didn't get it. Why? Because I didn't get back together and do the work with my sponsor. Step 9 gave me the promises and I thought I had arrived and life was great. I had no idea I had to keep doing this work daily because I never even read this part of the book. It's a continuous step. This is a step I'm going to do continually. I need to continue to watch. Now we're going to get some directions for step 10. I'm going to continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. This is a preview to step 11, everybody. This is a preview to step 11 because this is what Paige is going to be talking about in a minute. This is what we're going to continue to watch for. And you see, I've got written over here on the right, W-A-D-A-T. Stole this from, I think, Howard E. WADAT. I'm going to watch. That is the W. Then when these crop up, I'm going to ask. W-A, God at once. At once. There's a time frame. It doesn't say wait a half hour, wait 3 days. It says I'm going to ask God at once when selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, fear crop up at once. I need to ask God to remove these things. Again, Bill gives us explicit time frame directions, and I didn't read it. Continuing at once. Oh, not an overnight matter. I just didn't get it, but at once we ask God to remove these things. Then what do we do next? We discuss them. There's the D. Discuss them with someone. Time frame again, immediately. Not 3 days from now, not 3 weeks from now, immediately. This is a daily practice, and I need to stay on top of this stuff. And then we make amends. There's your second A, W-A-D-A. We're going to make amends quickly. Another time frame. We don't sit on these amends. We make them right away. This is now a daily practice using steps 4 through 9. And then it says, then we resolutely we make amends quickly if we have harmed anyone. And then we resolutely turn, there's the T, turn our thoughts to someone we can help. And surprise, that's a preview to step 12. Okay. It tells me love and tolerance of others, not love and tolerance is our code. FYI, this is one of my pet peeves. Paige's is the spiritual progress, not spiritual perfection. My pet peeve is love and tolerance of others is our code. Yeah, I get love and tolerance. No, of others, of other people's shortcomings, of other people's ugliness, of other people's sickness. I need to practice love and tolerance with you guys. Okay. This is my code today. I want to grow in understanding and effectiveness, and I want love and tolerance of others to be my code. And then we've got some promises. These are the 10th step promises. If you guys have never heard the 10 step promises, which I'm sure you have if you come to this meeting, but they're really awesome promises. And I didn't know there were more promises after step 9, but here they are. 1, we've ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. For by this time, number 2, sanity will have returned. Number 3, we will seldom. That's a time frame. That's a time word. Seldom means not often at all, almost not at all. Seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as if from a hot flame. I've got some page references on here. I'm not going to go to because we don't have too much time to get to them. But, if you look at page 24 in the big book, it talks about that. Let me open the book so I don't misquote it, because I will do that. I will slaughter a phrase. Page 24, it tells us, page 1 day, I'll be as good at you at this. There's a complete failure of the kind of defense that keeps one from putting his hand on a hot stove. That's page 24. That's in there as a solution. We're still in step 1 at this point. So we've got this complete failure, this absolute inability to stop touching the hot stove at this point. Now we're on step 10 and we're on page 84 of the book, and look at, no longer can we not stop ourselves from touching that hot stove. Now we're going to recoil as if from a hot flame. We recoil. No longer does the hot stove make me think, oh, maybe it won't be burning me this time. Now I look at the hot stove and go, fuck, that shit's hot. I'm not touching that. That's step 10 promises. Next page, top of page 85. We react sanely and normally. I understand that that first hit, fix, pill, drink, or snort is going to make me break out and more. And I go, ooh, no. You know, the liar in my head doesn't come on and say, oh, that's a good idea. This is the step 10 promise. The liar in my head is shutting up today. And we will find that this has happened automatically. I just suddenly realized that these things were happening. We'll see that our new attitude, that spiritual awakening, oh, looky, here it is. It's happening in step 10. I have a new attitude toward liquor. And it's been given to me without any thought or effort on my part. It just comes if I do the work. I wish it said, if I do the work, if I do the work, it comes. That is the miracle of it. We are not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. I can walk into a bar for dinner with my family today, and I don't think about ordering a drink. I can even sit in the bar with my family because there's no seats at a restaurant. And I don't think about having a drink. The people around me drink. Vodka or whatever's on top of the fridge that the guys have. I don't think about drinking. It's been sitting there for 6 years. You know, if I was drinking, that bottle had been gone 6 years ago. It would not still be sitting on the top of the fridge. It just doesn't, it's not something I want to do today. We feel as though we had been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We've not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has literally been removed. And I want to put this caveat in there. As long as I don't pick up the first one, and as long as I stay doing this work. There are conditions. I would love it if I just read the book and the promises came true. But just reading the book and reading these words isn't going to make it happen. I have to do the work. Okay. We're neither cocky nor are we afraid. That is our experience. That's how we react. And here it is. There's the caveat I've been throwing in there. So long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. Guys, this is when the light comes on. This is the spiritual awakening part of the steps. This is when we start to realize our attitudes, our ideas, our emotions, our feelings, our actions are changing, is right around this step. Now we're going to get some warnings. And this is what happened for Lynne. It is easy to let up on our spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. Laurels are our past accomplishments. I did steps 1 through 9 and my life got great. So let me just stop there. No, 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 no. It says we are headed for trouble if we do. For alcohol and methamphetamine and crack and marijuana, they are a subtle foe. We're not cured of alcoholism. I'm not cured of alcoholism or addiction. What I really have, what I'm telling you I am recovered from, I have a daily reprieve. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent. That means it depends upon the maintenance, the upkeep, doing steps 1 through 9 daily by doing a step 10 when things come up, maintenance of my spiritual condition. Every day is a day when we must carry the vision of God's will into God, Bill, you're so demanding all of our activities. If this sounds tough, it's a tall order. This is work. This is work, guys. It really is. For Lynne, this was hard work. It's simple. The instructions are really simple. But I'm a selfish, self-centered, dishonest, fearful, and self-seeking BI, you know what. And if I'm not working on the maintenance of my spiritual condition every day in all my activities, I go back to this guy, resting on my laurels, my past accomplishments. I think that what I did yesterday is going to get me through today. And it doesn't. It might for a little bit. It might even for a year or so. But my experience was I picked up. I picked up because I let up on my program of my spiritual program. I stopped doing the work. I stopped going to meetings. Just didn't work with others. And all of a sudden, a drink sounded like a good idea. It needs to come into all my activities. This question needs to be at the top of my head. How can I best serve thee? How can I take Source's will into my daily life? How can I help others? Thy will be done, not mine. Says these are thoughts which, again, here's another must. These are all suggestions in the book, but there's a few musts. These must go with us constantly. Constantly. God, again, really tall order. But if I just do the work I don't want to do, it gets easier. The more I practice this, the more I do this daily, the easier it becomes. Says we can exercise our willpower with along this line all we wish. That is the proper use of the will, to follow God's will, to turn my will over to God. And I've got a big note over here. First of all, let me go back to the daily reprieve. That reprieve means that I have delayed punishment. It means that I don't have to pick up a drink or a drug today. If I continue to do the work that's laid out before me, then I can delay the punishment of what the first drink will bring me. I don't have to pick up the first one. I've got a note that says don't stop. And I put this here for me as well as my sponsees, guys, because, I stopped. I stopped. And it's so important to finish these steps. Let me finish this last paragraph and I'll wrap her up. Much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from him who has all knowledge and power. I want you to know that I've highlighted in yellow my description of my higher power. Strength, inspiration, and direction, all knowledge and power. I pray to that idea. If you're here today and you don't believe in God, atheist agnostic sitting right here in front of you somehow managed to get 6 years. I discovered a higher power of my own understanding. I call it source. I don't need to explain it to any of you. If you want to know about it, give me a call. But it is just this. It's strength, inspiration, direction, knowledge, and power that I, of myself, am not capable of getting. If we've carefully followed directions, that's doing the first 9 steps, and now number 10, we have begun. This doesn't happen overnight, continued, ongoing, not an overnight matter. We've begun to sense. We're just starting to sense this flow of his spirit into us. To some extent, we've become what they call God conscious. And you read about that in the spiritual experience, the back of the book, appendix number 2. The spiritual experience talks about the great reality was found deep within. And for me, that's where it was for me. They say that some of our more religious members call it their God conscience. I'm literally your least religious member, and I call it my God conscience. That's what I call source. It's just this instinct that Lynne doesn't have. Lynne says, how do I get away with this? How do I pull this off? How do I get what I want for me? Source, God, higher power says, how can I help others? What can I do to get out of me? What can I do to be of more use to other people? That's the difference between that source of strength, inspiration, and direction and Lynne's thinking. I don't give myself good direction. I give myself manipulative, scandalous, sneaky, cunning, baffling, powerful suggestions, or so I think. But really, my directions just mess me up. When I stop and I pray and I get into the step 11 practice that Paige is about to talk about, and then I work my step 12 and I help others, I really feel that flow. I really begin to feel the spirit come into me. I've got this God consciousness. I hear that voice. I've begun to develop this vital sixth sense. But we must go further, and that means more action. And so I'm going to leave it there and let Paige take over on step 11. And thank you guys very much for allowing me to be here today and to share with you.
Oh, thank you so much, Lynne, for your share. Thank you for your service this evening. So step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. It now gives me great pleasure to welcome our second speaker tonight, Paige F., who will share around step 11 for about 20 minutes. Paige, floor's yours.
That's it. I'll tell you, I don't have all knowledge and power. Our host has all knowledge and power. I got to get unmuted. And you know what is so funny is just as Lynn was wrapping up, a sponsee of mine just messaged and saying, Paige, do you have the capacity for a step 10? And I was like, at this very moment, we're going to have to wait. Send it as a voice note. So perfect. Anywho, I'm Paige and I'm an addict and so grateful to be here with you guys today. And yes, where Lynn was wrapping up, you know, when I come to the rooms of Cocaine Anonymous, when I come to the rooms of 12 Step, I am without knowledge, I am without inspiration, I am without power, and I can tell you I am directionless. So why would I not want to access power? Why would I not want to access direction? Why would I not want to access knowledge? And I love that you're talking about conscious contact. You see, the word conscious is simply with knowing. Its Latin origin is with knowing. And when I come here, I come to Alcoholics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, you know, and I come and I have this experience where I am without knowing. In fact, that is the root of the word agnostic. And a cool sort of linguistic twist is the word understand in the 1930s means to know through experience. So I come here without knowledge, I come here without experience with this power, and the purpose of steps 4 through 9 is to bring about that experience. And as Lynn was talking about, the 10th step allows me to grow and to deepen in a practice of 4 through 9. And we get to continue to deepen that experience of this power I didn't like, I didn't believe in, and I did not think would help me when I got here. So it says, step 11 suggests. Now, as Lynn was saying, it's only a suggestion, but we don't really have alternative suggestions. Well, to be fair, on page 25, we have the alternative suggestion, which is alcoholic death, going on to the bitter ends, you know, blotting out the consciousness of our intolerable situation as best we could. That's what we got. And so prayer and meditation. I don't know about y'all, but I read that wrong. I read that as prayer and or meditation, whatever you're feeling. And I ignored the meditative aspect of the 11th step for a long time. And here's the thing, when I work with people, when I work with sponsees and I ask them about their 11th step practice, I don't bother asking about prayer. Because here's the thing, if you're meditating, I know you're already praying. But so often I'll be like, what does your meditation look? I'm praying. I pray, you know? And that was me. So there's no judgment there. I've been there. So it says we shouldn't be shy on this matter of prayer. Better men than we are using it constantly. So this is something that's got to be working in and through me. In fact, faith has to work 24 hours in and through us or we perish. So this conscious contact has to be a flowing and ongoing thing. And it says it works. It works. So little implied promise. It works. But here all the promises come with condition. It works if I have the proper attitude and I work at it. I've got some news, and this was news for me, and I hated it, so I apologize profusely if I ruin your day. Did you know that God is not a vending machine? I can't be like, I would like boop, boop, you know, A6, get me feeling better, you know? But that's how I was viewing God. As a vending machine, as a painkiller, as a fix me, but it's a relationship. And if you think about any relationship you have, if you go to that person and you're like, give me this, give me this, give me this, you're not going to feel very connected. But if you go to that relationship willing to listen, willing to share honestly, willing to spend time together, willing to deepen your experience together, that relationship is likely to flourish, is likely to blossom. So it says it would be easy to be vague about this matter, but we believe we can offer some definite and valuable suggestions. So the first suggestion is evening review. It says when we retire at night. And you might be like, why would we start with when we retire at night? Why does it start there? And some people have some interesting takes on it. And I truly believe that there's value in all of that. But I'm going to give you the really boring answer. Is in the original manuscript, when we retire at night was originally a morning direction. And so, what's the takeaway from that, other than me being pedantic? Why would I bring that up? Now, the reason I bring that up is because sometimes for many of us, the right before we go to bed is the worst time to do our evening review. I don't know about you, I have a cognitive collapse. Obviously, it's taken what little willpower I have and the spirit of the universe to allow me to put sentences together. So at the end of the day, my brain's done. So, man, I don't always have a lot of cognitive capacity. Now, I am incredibly disciplined in my 11th step. I have not missed, an 11th step practice prayer meditation evening review in like 8 years. Like, I'm incredibly disciplined. But here's the thing. Because it was originally a morning direction, if you find that, you know what? It works a little better for me if I do my evening review in the morning. Do it. It works a little bit better if I do my evening review at lunch. Do it. If it works for you to do your evening review when you come home for the day and you're just trying to unwind, do it then. The time that you do it does not matter as much as that I do it and review the past 24 hours. So if I'm doing it on a daily basis, it doesn't matter when I do it. And so actually, I'll do screen share too. You had screen share, I'll have screen share, we'll all have screen share. So these are the directions for evening review. And it's taken out of the book, but what I did was just put some numbers as a list, because I don't know about you, I find that helpful for me. So evening review. So for me, the first direction is that I constructively review my day. And I'm sure you can gather that I'm a scattered human being. And so for me, I have to write pen to paper what I did in the day. Now that is also something that you can do as a meditative practice, to come into stillness and meditatively review your day. And some of you might be like, hey, it doesn't say to write your evening review down. You are correct. But when I was getting into the 10th and 11th step, there were people in my life who demonstrated the power of putting pen to paper. I'm doing it, and I don't mind if you use the app. I'm telling you what I do. I do pen to paper because I saw the powerful demonstration of the people who put pen to paper on their evening review. And I remember very explicitly, there's a gentleman at the camp out. I was at a recovery camp out, and he showed up and he's like, actually, it doesn't say to put pen to paper. And he didn't even bring a tent, so I wasn't listening to him. Gotta be a demonstration. So that's what I do. And then it asks, were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? And I break those down. Was I resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? And those are the exact same things that Lynne was talking about, that when we watch for. And you see, the evening review, the 11th step and the 10th step work together, in that it gives me these safety nets. I don't have to be perfect. I won't be perfect. God, Cocaine Anonymous, the 12 Steps, the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous does not expect me to be perfect. Instead, it meets me where I'm at. So when I miss things, and please know I miss things in the 10th step, I get the beautiful opportunity to catch them in the evening review. And the biggest thing for me is in the evening review, just as much as in the 10th step. If I had a resentment, I need to do the columns. Those columns that I learned in the 4th step, man, for me, if they have the power to give me freedom from resentments I never thought I could get free from, or fears that consumed me my entire life, why wouldn't I do it with Bob at the office, who was using the copy machine tool? You can tell I've never had a white collar job. I don't know how to do that. I'm not an office person, but you know what I mean? Why would I not? Because it takes me to that place of freedom. So I'm a big proponent that if it comes up, I take it through the columns. Was I resentful? If yes, column selfish. If yes, I make a note of it, and there's possibly an amends there. If I was dishonest, I make a note of it. There's possibly an amends, possibly fear underneath. If I was afraid, I write the columns. Now it says, do I owe an apology? If I'm not sure, often the columns will illuminate whether I do or not. And I make a note of it so that I make that commitment that I will set it right. And then I ask, have I kept something to myself which should be discussed with another person at once? And that could be, do I have something I got to run by my sponsor? Do I have a decision that I made that I'm like, yikes, I should tell somebody? Or do I need to share some of this inventory with someone? And then it says, were we kind and loving toward all? It's the all that gets me. All. Now, here's the thing. My former sponsor, she was like, Paige, you don't have to worry about if you're just judging in your head. But I don't know about you guys. I live in here. And I don't like it when it's not nice in here. So if it's not nice in here, even if I was smiley and kind outside, I got to have a look at what's happening on the inside. Was I kind and loving toward all, even in my heart? And it says, what could we have done better? Now, what could we have done better is not a punitive beating myself up. What could I have done better that allows me to take that and take it to my morning prayer and my morning meditation to allow me to grow and to deepen? So when I use what could I have done better to guide my prayers, guide my vision in the morning, that is no longer punitive, it is growth. And like I say, step 10 and 11, of course, it's a little about maintenance, but far more than that, it is about growth. And I'm off on a tangent, but I will tell you, my life did not change until I took the 10th step and most importantly, the 11th step, because I needed to have a solid 11 to get good at 10. I struggled with it. You know, I have attention problems. I needed a daily meditation to be even able to watch, that was my experience. But it wasn't until I took the 11th step with the seriousness that it demands that real freedom became possible. That little voice in the back of my head that said, if it gets bad enough, you don't need to be here, that was gone. And I did not think that would ever leave. I had that from as early as I can remember. I remember being in kindergarten and not wanting to be here, actively in the 3rd grade, not wanting to be alive. That's what my experience was. And that was gone with a rigorous, and for me it is rigorous, application of step 11. And it says, what could we have done better? So that can lead me into the vision. And it says, were we thinking of ourselves most of the time, or were we thinking of what we could do for others, what we could pack into the stream of life? Where was my orientation? Where was my heart posture? And for me, I get this on paper. It says, after we making our review, we ask God's forgiveness. Now, if you come with religious trauma or baggage, you might be like, why am I asking God's forgiveness? But if you've made amends, you'll know this experience with other people. I often have to ask for that forgiveness before I actually feel the forgiveness that was there the whole time. And that's been my experience. And then we can inquire what corrective measures should be taken, which is, again, another beautiful opportunity to come into a meditative state and to practice meditation as they did in the 1930s with the Oxford group. And so that's my little handout that I made on evening review. And so it says, on awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. We consider our plans for the day. Now, here's the thing. The 11th step is a meditative practice. Now, you'll often hear, oh, they didn't have meditation in the 1930s. Well, that doesn't seem to be the case. So a lot of people assume that this is only a form of meditation which is discursive, which is active thinking meditation. But they also had apophatic and cataphatic meditative practices that were around since beyond the medieval ages. So they did exist. And so what we're gonna, because I'm a little short on time with it, so I might gloss over the Upon Awakening. But the whole thrust of Upon Awakening is that I am going to ask God. And any time in this book I see we ask or to ask, that is a prayer. And so I come to this place of stillness. And I ask this power to direct my thinking. And then I have a review of what is going on in my day. And I have a look, God, where would you, higher power, creator, spirit of the universe, source, where would you have me be? What would you have me do? And the thrust of what it's talking about, where it says where we're not sure about what the right thing is to do, we ask God, another prayer, for inspiration and intuitive thought or decision. We relax and take it easy. We don't struggle. How often do we talk about the voice of God? The voice of our higher power is a quiet whisper. And I can't hear the whisper if I'm screaming on the inside. So I've got to come to this place. And the place that was described in a lot of Oxford group literature was receptivity. So for example, for those of you that are in a relationship, for those of you that are married, well, you probably know that if you were to ask, honey, where's the ketchup? Actually, please don't do that. Just have another look. I'm just trying to help your relationship. Honey, where's the ketchup? And then your spouse, your partner goes to respond, and you're like, no, what about this? Can you test me this? And then, hey, when do I need an oil change? Before the person can even respond, I'm not going to get the answer. So I come to a place of stillness. Now, here's the thing. In my experience with meditation, one of the most common old ideas that we bring to Cocaine Anonymous is that old idea that I can't meditate. And that is an old idea, because we think meditation is sitting in perfect stillness, and that's not meditation. We think, oh, I go to meditate, and my brain just goes. There's something weird about me. I'm somehow different. I just want you to know that's every human being who meditates. That's the Dalai Lama. That's now I can't think of any other famous meditators. That was the only one I could list. But every person, and you all have brains, yes, you do. The brain is an organ, and just as the heart beats, the lungs breathe, the brain thinks. That is its job. So when we come to a place of meditation, the brain will think. But what we're trying to do is bring our attention to a point, whether it's the breath, whether it's openness and receptivity, whether it's a different meditative practice. Have fun. It goes on to say, be quick to see where religious people are right. Make use of what they have to offer. Man, there is joy to be had in the 11th step, in the seeking and the exploring. And that's been my experience. So do it. Amazing. But here's the thing with meditation. It is bringing my attention to a point. And then what will happen is the mind will wander. And then we notice and we bring it back. And that is meditation. And there's this meditative practice where it's like, I don't need to go into specifics of it, but it's about that naked intent to get connected with God or your higher power or your creator. And there was a gentleman that was teaching this to a bunch of nuns. And this is a story. And the guy that was teaching it was like, to one of the nuns, was like, hey, how'd the meditation go? He probably said it a little less like casual than that. And the nun was like, oh, it was so awful. My mind wandered 1,000 times. And his response was, how wonderful. 1,000 surrenders to God. And when we see meditation in that way, we see that, man, we can do this thing. Just like going to the gym, I can't build the muscle if there's not resistance. And so that's the morning directions. Really glossed over because I spent too much time on evening review. Woohoo! But then it gives us directions on what we do as we go throughout the day. And we see this beautiful, again, another beautiful parallel between 10 and 11. And they work together, which is probably why this is a 10 and 11 meeting. So clever, you guys. And it talks about as we go throughout the day, we pause when agitated or doubtful. So again, I've got to watch. And it says, and ask. And again, that is a prayer for the right thought or action. And so we see these exact same things. Now I'm going to point something out in step 10 on page 85. What we have is a sneaky little prayer. I call it the step 10 prayer. You can call it whatever you want. And on page 85, it says, how can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. And then it says on page 86, humbly saying to ourselves many times each day, thy will be done. And so we see that beautiful prayer that moves with us as we go throughout the day. And if I can rock and roll with that, I like to, breathe in, thy will, breathe out, be done. If I can roll with that, if I can practice that, that'll help bring me to the present moment, which helps me to watch. And so what I will say is my experience is that I did not know what was truly available in Cocaine Anonymous until I took the 11th step with the seriousness that it demands. And it was when I did that, I began to experience a freedom I never thought possible. I began to awaken spiritually in ways I never thought possible. And I don't know about you guys, I couldn't stay well on one drink. I never once stayed well on one crack hoot. I didn't pop one pill and thought that's sufficient. No, I get the buzzies and need more, And it's like that with me. I can't stay well on one spiritual experience. And the 11th step allows me to deepen and grow and to go to places I never imagined. There's no glass ceiling on this thing. And it's available to each and every one of us. So thank you for the opportunity to share.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Paige. I'm going to now let Lynn back in so you two guys can have like a 10 minutes of spiritual discussion or how you see fit together around 10 and 11. So, Lynn, come back in and the floor's both of yours for whatever you want to talk about, guys.
All right. Paige, what do you want to talk about? You want to process a 10th step real quick?
Yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
guys,
Yeah.
let's do that. So let me screen share. I'm going to show you all a little tool that I found because pen to paper, I'm lazy. But this is nice and easy and you can use it online. It's called the Rapid Step 10, and it literally has everything that I just read about in the book in it. Every part of the 10th step process is on this little item here. So, Paige, I am really, really upset with the county for, oh, I'll tell you why. The county, okay, county
Oh,
of
the
San Bernardino.
county. Oh, they're the worst.
Oh,
San
tough.
Bernardino. We're getting the second column place. I'm like, yeah. And then we'll get to that fourth column place. I'm just
So
teasing. I don't know
what
anything.
did the son of a do? They discontinued my Medi-Cal right before my surgery. And so now I've got column 1 and column 2 of my 4th step. I've done them in my 10th step. Now we're going to talk about what it affects. Well, it affects my finances because I may have to pay for my own surgery now. It affects my ambitions because I have an ambition to get this surgery done and I may not be able to do it now. And my emotional security. I'm going to say it affects my emotional security because it's made me a basket case. All right. Now the fun part, everybody. This is the step 6 part of the step 10 practice. My part. What was my mistake in this? Well, let's see. I am catastrophizing because I do know that it just takes a little bit of work and I can get this reinstated. I just got to jump through some hoops, make some phone calls. But I was catastrophizing. I felt like the whole world was ending over this. Let's see. I didn't turn in my RE in time. And when I did turn it in, it had old income. This was my responsibility to turn in the right information for them to determine my eligibility. And I didn't. I was very financially irresponsible. And I was lazy. I didn't do the work on time. Okay, so let's just pick 3. So those are the 3 defects I'm going to focus on that helped cause this problem, actually. So then the wonderful thing about this rapid step 10 is it populates the assets I want to pray toward. So I'm looking towards trading in those defects. And I would like to be instead to be financially responsible, proactive, and to be able to see reality clearly. And then this wonderful little tool here populates a 7-step prayer for me. My Creator, I'm now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. In particular, please take away my catastrophizing, my financial irresponsibility, and my laziness, and help me to replace them with financial responsibility, proactiveness, and seeing reality clearly. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. Then do I need to make any amends? I say no. I'm sure my sponsor will let me know if it's different. And then who can I help now? Well, who can I help now? I've got a phone call I can make right after this to check on a friend. So I'm going to check on a friend. And I didn't spell it right, but I'm not going back and deleting, so fuck it. And then I need to share my inventory. So now I need to do a step 5. Now I need to call my sponsor, which I don't have to do because she's on the meeting with me here, and say, listen, this is what it looks like. This is what I did. This is how I processed it. Does that all look okay to you? Did I miss anything? And so now I'm going to turn it over to Paige.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not as much of an app person. And to be fair, I finally got a new phone. So in theory, I could, but I'm more of a pen to paper sort of gal. That's just how my brain works. What I do is when I have a 10th step, is sometimes I'll call, but I'm more likely going to voice memo you, and the people that I do my 10th steps with. And that gives that freedom, because I don't know about you guys, but with me, I don't want to be a burden. And I don't want to bother anyone. Not you guys. You guys are super chill, but I don't want to. And so often I'm like stuck in that like self obsession and the and I with my sponsees too, like yeah, send it in an app, but also you can send it as a voice note because I work with people all over. You know what I mean? And so I'm not up at 3 a.m. my time for people who are in the UK having a reasonable step 10 hour. Like that's yeah. So I can deal. And by the way, the sponsee he did text me it. And he used a different app to text it to me. So yeah, I will respond after. But I voice noted, and I same thing, voice noted through the columns, and so that's another way to do it. And it, one of the things that can just be so helpful is that it's a practice. It's a practice. We are not going to be perfect. Now, if you're here today and you don't have a lot of practice with this 10th step or a lot of experience with 10 and 11, it might be like, girl, this is so much work. I know. But here's my experience. Anything in Cocaine Anonymous always feels like a lot of work when I'm not doing it. When I'm not doing it. When I'm actively doing this thing, man, it flows. And here's the thing, and I think part of why I sort of like rail against these being the maintenance steps, not, I mean, it refers to that in the book, so I'm not like railing too hard, but for me, these are growth steps. I get to grow. And I get to grow in two ways. You see, the more I clear away the stuff in me that's blocking me from this power, the more I get to know this power, the deeper I get to experience this power. But also, I'm going to work with people. I'm going to sponsor people. Lynn's going to come at me with the 10th step. Come at me in a positive way, not like, but in like, yeah, girl, send me those 10s. Woo! And so the more adept I am at this process, 4 through 9, whether it's a big 4 through 9 or a condensed 4 through 9 in 10 or in evening review, the more experience that I have to share with others, the more I'm able to help you. So the more you bring, the more I look at me and clear away from me, the more I can help you. I saw you unmuted, so girl, you go ahead.
I'm just going to say, and the more we practice it, the more it becomes a working part of the mind. Again,
Yeah.
back to the step 10 time frames that they give us immediately, continuing, not an overnight matter, continue to grow. It doesn't happen right away, guys. And that's why they give us that warning on awakening, that you might not be able to trust your instincts right away. You're going to hear the voice kind of quiet at first. My voice was really loud at first. Now I'm 6 years and a month in and been really practicing this part of the program, and it's becoming instinctual. It's becoming instinctual. And when I wake up, I do my prayer meditation. I do my what I'm going to do for the day. I make a list of what I'm going to review, what I'm going to do for the day. Um, and it's become just part of my daily activities where in the beginning it was tough. It takes practice. And for me, I'm lazy and I want it all. I want it yesterday. I want it free and I want someone else to do the work. But when I started to just do the work I didn't want to do, just like Paige says, when you get into it, it shows, it reveals itself to be the solution. It starts to kick in and it becomes a working part of the mind, and we just do it automatically now. And it's making my life better by continuing to grow through doing this work. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
I think that's it out of us, Katie. Thank you.
Yeah,
Unless you had
I
something
think
else.
so. Yeah, no, no,
No,
no. I think that's it.
beautiful. Thank you, ladies, so much. So it's going to now be the Q&A part of the meeting. So where, you can come in and ask the speakers any questions relating to 10 and 11 or what you've heard. Please be mindful, though, to keep it to questions only. A digital timer will be put up for 2 minutes, and this is to give everyone as much opportunity to ask a question. So if you please raise your hand, I will call you in order. If you've drunk or used today, please refrain from asking a question. However, if you do have a question and you need to talk, please stay around after. Someone on the meeting will be happy to listen and support you. So the room is now open for Q&A. And I can see that we have the lovely Sherry. Do come on in, Sherry, with your question.
There we go. Hi, everybody. Sherry, alcoholic addict. Thank you guys so much. Holy enthusiasm, Batman. Thank you so much. So, the older that I get in age and sobriety, the more that we relax and take it easy, we don't struggle, is a big part of 1011 for me. Also, step 10 speaks very much about also taking a balance, not writing down, but taking a balance of the good things, of the things that were accomplished for the day, of the things that were good about the day, of the things we've done right. So, what's your take on that? What's your take on we relax and take it easy? We don't struggle. What's your take on not just asking, where was I selfish, dishonest, self seeking, and afraid, but also taking a balance, as the 12 and 12 talks about, of what was done right today? Because for me, I know the bad stuff. Um, and for me, it's about hearing the voice of God, which is about the good stuff as well. So, just what's your take on that, guys? And thanks again.
I'll
Did you
come in
want to
real
go
quick
first?
on
Do
that
you
one.
want?
Relax. Yeah, I'll come in
Okay,
and
you're
then you
going.
come in. And then you. Yeah, relax and taking it easy was hard work. That's what I have to say about that. It didn't come easy for me to relax and take it easy. But again, practicing, practicing. For me, I don't look at my day and see the crappy stuff. I look and see all the good stuff. So I'm kind of the opposite of you, Sherry. I don't immediately notice the bad stuff. I need to do inventory to remember the bad stuff that happened. For me, all the good stuff that comes to the top of my head. So I'm curious if Paige has a different answer. Go ahead, Paige.
Absolutely. Sorry, the allergies that got better when I was talking got worse as soon as I stopped. I'm not anti much, but apparently antihistamine. Uh, so when we talk about relax and take it easy, I go back to the third step where it talks about that delusion that we can wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this world if we only manage well. And I talk about the word rest as in it is the root of the word wrestle, which is to take by force. And that I'm sitting in the delusion of the God chair, as I call it, trying to fix and manage and do all of that. And I'm constantly in collision. So to relax and take it easy is really a fulfillment of what happens when I continue with the promise that I made in the third step, which is to work these 12 steps as a way of life, like my life depends on it, because it does. Now, to go to the question of positive things. So for me, I don't intentionally do the balance sheet. I fell in love with the evening review process as it's out of the book, but that doesn't say the book, the big book. But that isn't to say that I don't utilize the positives. So for me, when I constructively review my day, I'm writing what happened, and there were positive things in that because I need to remember what happened. And when I look at that 10th, I number it the 10th thing, where I think, was I thinking of what myself or what I could do for others? That helps me see like where I was centered in God, where I was centered in service. So that's where I get those things from the evening review practice as it's in the book. So even though I don't quite do the balance sheet thing, I get it in there in evening review. So hopefully that was helpful. Oh, and you know what? I'll throw it out there. It does not tell me to do a gratitude practice. It doesn't. But I had a sponsor, and that was something I did. So I also end with things that I was grateful for. And I have an uncle who every year for Christmas he sends me a wall calendar. And listen, I need the Google Calendar if I'm going to function. So what I do is I write one thing I was grateful for on that wall calendar. So that's a thing that I do. Book doesn't say to do that, but be quick to see where religious people are, right? So have fun, have fun. So that's what I got.
That's interesting you said that. I'm going to come in on that real quick. For me, my prayer meditation practice, that's where I do my gratitude list. So the beginning of every prayer I do for my morning meditations, I start with gratitude. I always start with gratitude, then turn direct my thinking, then third step prayer, seventh step prayer, sick man's prayer, wrap her up. And I find too that helps me. Doing the 11th step practice helps me to take it easy. just doing that recommitment every morning to God, that third step practice, the 11th step practice, doing that helps me take it easy. And I can restart my day at any time. So I find that if I've forgotten to do it in the morning and around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm getting restless, irritable, and discontent. And I'm not finding myself getting so easy and calmly into things. It's not coming. So I can start over. I can start over at any time. Go back and do a step 3, go back and do a step 11, restart my day at any time. And then I start to take it easy. I find when I get wrapped up in self, I'm not taking it easy. But when I recommit to God, I take it easier, much easier. That makes sense? Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Thank you, ladies. And thank you, Sherry, for your question. Next up, I can see Janie. Do you want to come in with your question?
Thanks, Katie. Janie, recovered addict. Thank you, ladies. Well, I've got two little questions that sort of go in with each other. Okay. What it is that when I was 8 years in, I made a serious attempt on my life. Okay. And I come out of that really unwell, from a bad relationship, whatever. So what I did was my brain was so frazzled that I set an alarm on my phone. And at first it was every 15 minutes. Check your thinking. Thy will, not yours, be done. Who's running the show? How are you feeling? How are you thinking? Turn your will over. Little reminders. And as a result of that, within about 6 months, I didn't have to have an alarm on my phone, even though it still went off for about 2 years. Okay. Now, the second one is that recently, within the last 18 months, I went through some massive, massive upheavals in my life. And prayer and meditation, actually, where I've retreated to a place of leaning into God as directed from my sponsor and to love and to light, I actually believe that 10 and 11 is the steps where I grow in effectiveness and understanding. And that was where the idea of we need to talk about 10 and 11, we need to have a meeting on 10 and 11. So the question is to both of you, one, what have you done when you felt really connected that has brought you back? And two, what is a pivotal turning point which you can let people know, no matter how bad it gets, that something great can come out of it afterwards if you follow the guidelines in the big book?
Absolutely. And they do kind of tie in so beautifully together, those questions. For me, it really was really practicing the 11th step that gave me the ability to have that awareness as I went through the day. Just because, yeah, so I had to do 11 before I could really grasp 10. And so when we talk about my experience with moving through some incredibly difficult times in sobriety, I've got a couple examples. You probably don't, so most of you probably don't know this, but I'm actually a wheelchair user. And I got sick at 8. I don't like talking about it that much unless it can be helpful. It's helpful. Also, it's real funny on Zoom because then it's a plot twist. And when I'm in person, they're like, is she going to talk about it? No, we got a plot twist in this bad boy. So at 18 months into my sobriety, I very suddenly, and I really mean suddenly, developed a neurological condition, which meant that I couldn't walk without assistance. I had to learn how to read again. I had really awful neurological symptoms. And if you guys, and I think you guys are, the spinning bed when you get a little too, and you got the spinners. Yeah, I get that all the time. Foot on the floor does not help, by the way. It helps with the drinking one. Doesn't help with the vertigo that I got. And so, so this is a little funny. I vomited more in sobriety than I ever did in my active addiction, which is rude. And I will say, now I don't need sympathy for this, but I will say that learning how to read again, you know what that means? I had to learn how to say anonymity in front of all y'all twice. I don't need sympathy, but I could use a gold star for that. And I was looking back now, I'm like, that was incredibly traumatic. In a moment, my life changed in a permanent way, and I didn't have a lot of help or support. And I was alone, and I in terms of sort of navigating a lot of these health challenges. And I fell into a very, very, very deep depression, really tough place. And what brought me out of it was a friend of mine, one of my homies that I do the 10th step with. She was involved in Steel on Steel, and she's like, "Do you want to do Steel on Steel?" Now, Steel on Steel, all it got me to do, it got me to do a lot more, but what it got me to do was to work the 11th step with the seriousness that it demands. And it also taught me how I can apply prayer, meditation, and inventory in all these other situations. And from that, I experienced freedom. But the freedom came with the consistency. A couple of years ago, I sat with my uncle as he passed away, and 9 days in the hospital, and he was a good man that died an absolutely horrific death. Like, it was awful. And it was like, I think, one of the worst ways somebody could experience that. And that was deeply affecting to me. I probably have PTSD from the getting sick thing. I for sure have some PTSD from that. And here's my experience. I will, and like I was doing, there's a period I was doing, and I do about 30 to 40 minutes of meditation in the morning. I was doing 40 minutes of meditation at night. I'm doing my disciplines. I got sponsees. I'm doing studies. I got commitments, and I'm not okay. And I'm not okay. And I'm throwing what I can throw at it. I'm doing what I can do, and it's still there. And I think I should be a certain way. I think I should be at a certain place. But here's my experience is like, I'm not in charge. And what I realized is if I am present to whatever I am going through, it all gets used to help somebody else. There's not a single struggle, a single difficulty. Page 124 talks about my dark past, and it can even be my dark present. And if I'm willing to turn to God to the best of my ability, even if I'm not getting that instant relief, that I can use it to help somebody else. And everything that I've gone through has been of use. So I feel like I was a little long in the answer. So over to Lynne.
I have no idea what to say. Lynne, addict, alcoholic. I think what I think back to is, so I share a lot when I do my main share about my childhood abuse, and that my sister and my brothers and myself were sexually molested by our babysitters. And for a long time, I held resentments towards those girls, those babysitters, to the point where I wanted to find them and kill them. And this process helped me not only forgive, but to reach out to make amends to both of them. Because what I did over the years is I took their names and I slandered the shit out of these girls. I knew people who knew them, and I said their names, and I said what they did when we were little kids. And I did damage back. I mean, that doesn't mean what they did was okay. But what I learned through this process was that they were sick people too. And you guys gave me a bunch of tools to use. And page 552 was one of the biggies, to pray for them, to pray for them and what happens when I start doing that is I open myself to God. When I pray for others, I open myself to hear God's response. And God's response to me was, those girls were being molested by their basketball coach. Do you remember when he got arrested? And again, that didn't make it okay, what they did, but it gave me room to forgive because I understood they were sick people too. And for the first time in my life, I was able to let go of that need to get even with these girls. And I was able to own my own mistakes in the situation. And I'm able to clean up my past. And that is a tool I can give to anybody who's been through what I've been through. And, we think when we come in and we've been molested or, I'm just going to say it, had sex with our brother or sister, that's an unforgivable thing, that we could never get past that. And my experience is I have, and I did. And let me show you how. Let me show you what I did. Let me show you what God did for me. Let me show you how I walked through this. And for me, that's the biggest gift of this program, is that I get to turn, just like Paige said, I get to turn my dark past into a bright light for the next person. I'm not a train at the end of the tunnel. The light at the end of the tunnel is me holding up a little candle saying, come this way. Yeah. So that's what I got. Thanks, Jamie.
Oh, thank you, Jamie, for that question. And next up, we've got Yvette. Do you want to come in with your question?
Hi. Hi, Yvette, alcoholic addict. Thanks for the meeting. Yeah, my question is, do you suggest to your sponsees that they do step 10 and 11, even if they're not on that step, because I'm struggling at the moment. I've been through the work. I'm going back through the steps again after a relapse, but my new sponsor doesn't want me to do any inventory or anything like that, because I'm not at that step, and just to forget about it. And I'm struggling to have a connection and have a bit of faith in a higher power at the moment. But if I take my will back and I start doing the step 10, that's not following directions from my sponsor, because she doesn't want me to do it. Yeah. So what's your take on it? Thanks.
I'll go first on this one. Lynn Addict. Thank you for the question, Yvette. So for me personally, it depends. It depends on the sponsee. If my experience with that sponsee shows me that they need to practice setting aside everything they think they know, and so that they can have an open mind and a new experience with this whole new sponsor and set of things that she's going to give me, then I suggest you follow the sponsor's direction. If I've got a brand new person, for instance, I've got a girl I'm working with right now who's just got a few days, but she came across this problem she was having. This is a girl who's going to tons of book studies and meetings, and she's really paying attention to the book. And I said, you know what, let's go ahead and do a little preview. She's on step 3. Let's go to step 10. Let's go take it. And I pulled up this rapid step 10 and we walked through it. She's never done a 4th step. She's never done a 6th step. She's never done a 9th step, but we walked through it and I just kind of gave her a little preview on what's coming. And it helped. It helped. But I'm not going to say, go do a step 10 on your own, because, you don't know what the hell you're doing. And I used to feel like, no, hell no. You never tell someone, like I used to get mad when people say, are you praying and meditating? No, I'm on step 3. That's step 11. We don't do this yet. It depends. It depends. That's my answer, I guess. All right, Paige, it's over to you.
Absolutely. And I'll just share what I do with my sponsees. I have them praying and meditating from the get-go. And part of why is because that's what I'm after. I'm after this relationship. Also, what I've learned is momentum is crucial. It's so hard to start to do something again, but it's easy to continue to do it. Now, one of the things I'll point out is I've never had a sponsee, when we got to the quiet hour, complained about meditation at that point. Now, they were complaining about it beforehand, but at that point they weren't complaining. And so, yeah, I'm big on prayer and meditation from the beginning. And like Lynn, if I have a sponsee, let's say we're on step 1 and they're bringing me a lot of stuff, for a long time I'd be like, okay, well, we'll deal with it in step 4, but I didn't find that effective. What I found effective was like, all right, let's deal with this now. Let's clean it up now. And here's the thing, if they're not going to, and I sit with people to help them write inventory. So if they're not doing it now, they weren't going to do it, when we get to 4. So it just expedites the whole process. The other thing is that I move with people very quickly. So if we're going through the book line by line, I'm meeting them every day for at least an hour, preferably more, to go through the book quickly and thoroughly. Now, there's times where, again, because of momentum, because, we're doing it, but there's times we got to move a little bit faster than that, and we got to do 1, 2, 3 quickly, dive into 4. So what I will say is the only time I'm a little lay off is with the evening review, and if we're in the 4th step, because it's like we're writing, and we do it quickly and thoroughly together. We're doing a whole lot of writing. I'm writing with them. They're going to write on their own a little bit too. But that process, because it can be a little bit too much. But one of the things too that I talk about is we got to be writing on that 4 every single day. And I do it together. But if there's a time that works really well to write on our 4, that can then be a beautiful time that rolls into our evening review. So we create that space and it rolls. So I think that's what I got for that one. I won't tell you what you should do, but I'll just share it. That's what I do with my sponsees.
Lovely. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Paige. So the last question will be from Andy G, Agent of God. Come on in, Andy.
Thank you so much for a brilliant meeting. My name's Andy, recovered member of CA. It's to both of you, please, Lynne and Paige. I drastically changed my recovery at the beginning of this year. I looked at the intensive work with others. So I took the window of opportunity and condensed it and simplified it and just stayed with what the big book said. I take people through the steps in 2 hours. I was fed up of losing people, meeting a few times a week, and yeah, hardly anyone ever got through the book. We have 100% success rate at the moment with what we're doing. Can I just ask you, yeah, can I just ask both of you how long you suggest it takes, or yeah, what's your take on it, please? Thank you.
Absolutely. So I don't have a set time, a set system. I sort of meet people where they're at. And so in working with others, it talks about you get as much information about them as possible. Now I get it from them. I don't go talk to their spouses. Uh, and so one of the things that I ask is their previous experience. And I ask them like how, like, so with their relapses, how long do they have in between relapses? So that gives us a gauge of how quickly we need to go. Now, when I work with people line by line through the book, I can have them going. And by the way, I also want to be clear when I'm talking about my process, they're making their amends. It's not that they did a 4 and a 5 and they're like doing one here and there. We're making amends. And so we can get through that in 30 days, maybe 60 days if they're a little bit slower. But there are times where I need to move faster, where we don't have time to read through the book. And so that's where I do that like more accelerated 1, 2, 3, and we move into 4. And so when we're doing 4, again, we're sitting together every day, but my big thing is quick and thorough. And those two things for me have to work together, because if I'm thorough on 4, that gives me the foundation for 9. Well, and 5, 6, 7, obviously, but like then I literally, it makes it like boom. I take almost all that I wrote, and it can almost all of it go straight into the amends. Like, and so I don't have a set this long, this many hours, this many days, this many whatever. But I am big on like, let's go. And part of why my preferred method is line by line. And this, you didn't really ask this, but my brain is like, here's a tangent. My preferred method of line by line is I also get a lot of people who have asked me to take them through the work, who've been through the work before, but don't know how to sponsor others. And what I found is when we have that line by line experience, we have that ability to be like what you're saying, like flexible and like, okay, I'm going to take this and we're going to move quickly. And so, what so like with step 1, if I got to accelerate it, I can see where they're at. I can see where they might have gaps in their understanding, and we can just move there and then boom, let's go. And so, yeah, hopefully that answered the question. It probably didn't, because I think you were asking time and I didn't give you that, but I did the best I could.
I'm going to come in and not answer it too. So when I started sponsoring, I used to tell my sponsees, plan on 2 years, because that was what it took me. So my sponsor gave me an hour a week, and I sat on a 4th step forever and ever. So it took me 2 years to do the steps. And I thought when I came in and started sponsoring people, logically, it just made sense to me. It's going to take us 2 years. And I would give people an hour a week. And so then I started to take on more sponsees. And an hour a week per sponsee was working pretty good. But then I started to get sponsees who weren't able to stay sober between sessions. And that was when I actually asked Paige to sponsor me, because I wanted to learn a new way to do the steps so that I could get them through them faster. So I'm going out for surgery November 4th. Right now, I'm in the process of wrapping up as many sponsees as I can to get them through those steps, or at least up to 10 by the time I go out for surgery. So now I'm looking at a frame time of 6 to 9 months if you do the work at an hour a week. After surgery, I'm going to have some people done. So I'm doing what you're doing, Andy. I'm reassessing how I do this work with sponsees. And I want to be able to be more effective. And so I think that they need, like what Paige does, more time a week, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 days a week instead of 1 hour a week, so that I can get them through those steps faster. Because the goal, the way I understand it, the whole goal as a sponsor is to get them that spiritual awakening before the obsession of the mind becomes too powerful for them to resist. And the only way to get them past that obsession of the mind is to get them that spiritual awakening. And some of us could have gone a year or 2 years before you got to the end of the steps and it worked. But for most people, you want to get them through as fast as humanly possible to get that spiritual awakening. So yeah, I'm doing what you're doing, Andy. And I really appreciated that question. So thanks for letting me share.
Lovely. Thank you, ladies. That's the end of Q&A, but not the end of the meeting.